Welcome back, ladies and gents. Today I'm going to show you how to play Domination by Pantera. So today we're doing Pantera Domination, the riffs and including the solo. So if you want the tabs in PDF format or the guitar tone from Helix Native that you're hearing now for this guitar lesson, you can check the description down below and head over to my Patreon. All right, so let's get ourselves in tune and let's get started. Okay, so right there we heard three parts of the guitar riff, three variations. So in the beginning we want to pay attention to our right hand picking pattern and the slides with our left hand. So on our right hand we're doing downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, and then repeat. Down, up, down, down, up, down. Okay, so that's the first pattern. And with our left hand, we're going to be shifting, sliding between power chords. That's on the A and D string. We have 7-9, slide to 5-7, slide back to 7-9. And things to pay attention is I'm resting my left hand on the strings from the A string going all the way to the high E string, so that when I'm picking with my right hand, I may hit some of the other strings, like the A string, but because I'm resting my finger on it, it's just muted, so I can kind of go a bit more crazy with my right hand. Okay, so for the other slides, we have 3-5, 5-7, back to 3-5. That's on the low E and A string. By the way, I use my index finger and pinky for the power chord, but you can use also your ring finger instead of your pinky. It all depends on your taste with your left hand, what you are comfortable with. Okay, so as you're playing the riff, you'll be repeating patterns. And then the second time around, instead of doing this slide on the 3-5, we're actually doing this one. So that's 5-7, slide to 6-8, slide to 3-5. All right, so now we're going into the second variation. The difference here is palm muting and the pattern on the low E string. So very simple. In between the slides, we're simply playing open note, low E consecutively after each other. Notice how the power chord is being picked with an upstroke. And that's because I'm starting the pattern on a downstroke. All right, and for the third variation around, we are doing the same variation one, except we're palm muting the low E notes. So right here, we're getting into the next section of the song with a new riff. We are transitioning in with the following. All right, so there's going to be 2 to 3 kind of transition patterns throughout the whole song where you're playing a lot of power chords, and this is one of them. So what you want to do is, what I like to do is simply memorize the root to low E note of the power chord. which would be 7, 8, 9, 10, which is chromatic. And I just add the A note of the power chord. Okay, so that will be the first one. So we're starting off with the 9. Slide away, and then we have just palm mute with the chord open note 2, 2. And then we have the following kind of transitional power chord. Lick, if you will, riff lick. Right here, if you look at the root low E note of the power chord, we have chromatics again. Starting off in the 7, so that's 7, 6, 5, and then 3, 2, 1, and then power chord. Again, we add the A string note to the power chord, and we palm mute going all the way down. So during the repetition of the verse riff, there is a small variation. It's very simple. We're transitioning from open note 2, 2 to 1, 3 power chord on the A and D string. Alright, so now we're moving on kind of to the chorus riff. Okay, so right there we're starting off with 3-5 power chord starting on the A string, then 3-5 on the low E, and then 5/7 on the A. Alright, so for the palm muting, you want to pay attention to the right hand pattern. So as you can see, the last 2 open notes I am down picking. And then I'm upstroking the power chord. So the power chords is 10-12, and then 8-10, and then back to 10-12. Then we have the familiar little riff lick that we learned earlier. Then we have variation in the riff. So again, we're starting on 3-5. We go to 3-1 with the root note on the 1 low E instead of 5/7 starting on the root note A. Then we have the same pattern. Instead of going back to 10-12, we're actually going down over to 5/7. And then again we have another little riff lick. So that's 0. That means we are putting 2 on the A. 3, 5, 7, 8, 10. Now we're moving on to the solo section of the song. We're starting off on the high E string with a legato. We're starting off on 13, and the pattern goes as follows. You have 13, 12, 13, 16, then back to 13, 12. You pick 13 again, pull off the 12. From there you have the following section. From there we're playing 15 on the B string, picking 12 on the high E, hammer on, pull off to 13, 12, 13, 12, back to 15 on the B, and then back to 12 on the high E. From there we have the following section. Here we're pulling off on the B string, 15, 13, 12, pick 14 on the G, go back to 13, pull off 12 on the B string, 14 on the G, 12 on the B, and then 13 on the G, vibrato. From there, you're going to slide into 9, slide into 9, and then palm mute 9, 10 on the D string, hammer on 9, 10 on the G string, play open note low E, and then slide into 7 on the A string. We're on to the solo part 2. This one is arguably the hardest part of the song. I would suggest you put your guitar on your left leg and kind of angle it like this so that you have more room for the stretch that we're going to do. If you see Dimebag Daryl live in certain solo sections, he would actually put his guitar like this so that he has all of the room for his left hand for those stretches. Also, from Nevermore, Jeff Loomis does this as well. Okay, so let's see if I can angle this properly here. Alright, so the notes on the fretboard all remain the same throughout every single string. The pattern varies slightly at the end. So the notes that we need to play are 12, 15, and 18. And we're going to be hammering on all the way, legato all the way through. So we're starting off on the low E string with 12, 15, 18. Same with the A string. Same with the D string. Then you go back to the A, D, G. Go back to the D, G, B. Then you go back to the G. Once you're at the B again, you want to hammer on twice. Then go to the E, and then you're going to simply go back and forth with it. Alright, so once you got that down, we can move on to the next part of the solo. So right here we have another bit of a stretch. We're starting off with our pinky on the 22, our middle finger on the 18, and our index finger on the 15 on the high E. We're playing the note with our pinky 4 times, then 18, 15. That's the pattern. Then you shift your pinky onto from 22 to 21. And then you have to do that extremely quickly. Right there we're playing 24 vibrato and then 22 bend. Alright, so here we have a little bit of a rest from the speed of the rest of the solo. It's pretty simple if you follow the tab or alternate picking. There are a couple of interesting things happening in the later half of this solo section. We're starting off on the high E string with 1920, B string 22, high E 19, then with our middle finger on the 20, B string 22, 19, 20, and then 21 on the G string. Then we have the following part. That's 19, 20 on the B and then 21 on the G. On the second time around, you bend the 21 with vibrato. From there we have a chromatic section with some legato. Looks like this. So right here we're starting off on the 17, we're playing all the notes next to it. 17, 16, 15, 14. From there we're going to pull off 15, 14, 13, starting with our ring finger. And then we're doing the same pattern but starting on the 14. So that's 14, 13, 12. From there we have the last bit. That's 15 on the B, high E12, and then 17 bend high, 15, 17 vibrato. So in this part you're supposed to use your whammy bar if you have one to achieve the same effect that's going on the solo, but I don't have a whammy bar, so I just decided to just put some chords kind of in between before the last shred. That's simply 10 on the A, 12 on the G, 5, 7, 3, 5. Alright, for this last part we're going to be alternate picking, shredding our way through the guitar, starting off on the low E string, building our way up to the high E string. So it's the hardest part of this section is the speed, but the notes themselves, what you're playing, is pretty simple. We're starting off on the low E string. We're playing 8, 10, 12 twice with palm mute. You're palm muting the first half, going all the way to the D string, and from the G string you can let go of that palm mute. So low E string twice, 8, 10, 12. Then we have A string, 9, 10, 12 twice. The same thing with the D string, 9, 10, 12. On that same string, D string, we simply shift to 10, 12, 14 twice. Then we move on to the G string, 11, 12, 14 twice. Then we have on the G string 12, 14, 15 twice. On the B string 12, 14, 15 twice. On the same B string 14, 15, 17. 15, 17, 19. Move on to the high E string 15, 17, 19. On high E string 17, 19, 20. 19, 20, 22, and then 22 bend. So normally on that last bit you also use the whammy bar to achieve that higher pitched note elsewhere on the fretboard, lower actually, but again I don't have a whammy bar, so we're just gonna have to improvise our way to it. And that's kind of the end of, well, almost I guess the end of the solo section. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this guitar lesson, and if you want to stick around for more, be sure to subscribe. I will see you all again next time. Peace out.